All of our trouble and all of our joy begins with our thoughts. But you are not your thoughts. You are the creator of your thoughts. And as long as you're stuck in your thoughts, you have no say in the matter. You have no say in the matter of your life. But when you can step out of your thoughts, get up on the bank and watch your thoughts, then the possibilities and the potential of who you could be is amazing.
Hello and welcome back to Healing and Growing Hand in Hand podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Tickle. Our guest today is Bob Martin. He is a professor of wellness, a certified trauma-informed meditation teacher, and that's really important to know. He's not just a meditation teacher, and we're going to get into that. He works with many survivors, so he's got a lot of experience there. He has also survived his own heavy addiction as well as intense bullying as a child. I think we can all kind of relate to that. So, welcome, Bob, and thank you for being here.
And thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and this is a wonderful audience. I'm honored to be able to be on your show.
Well, thank you. I know just before we started the recording, you started to really get into the trauma-informed meditation and how it works is really interesting. And so I know we'll talk about that because, as I said before we started too, a lot of people don't understand the importance of meditation and they just kind of toss it aside. But there's a lot of importance to meditation. Can really help on our healing journey for sure. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
It's been a long and winding road, I'll say that. So it started in amusement parks. My dad was an Hungarian immigrant. He was actually Hungarian royalty.
Wow.
But when the Bolsheviks came in, they wiped out all of his family. And my mom was Roma Gypsy, and everybody knows what happened to those folks. So we didn't have much of a spiritual conversation in my family. You know, they just didn't feel there was a God that was worth worshiping. Not that they were anti-religious, it just wasn't a conversation. And I only mentioned that to say that one of the strengths that so many people have in dealing with early childhood trauma is that they do have some kind of faith community, which may or may not be helpful at times. We all know that.
Yes.
You know, faith communities have done a lot of damage and a lot of harm. But those folks that have a supporting, community around them, sometimes can find the strength from that community. And some of us, but we didn't have that. I grew up in amusement parks, and that's a whole different culture in and of itself.
I bet. That's a whole other conversation, right?
Yeah, right. And I grew up, and I went through, had a lot of bullying when I was a big boy. I was fat. And I was, those days we called it husky. And J.C. Penney's was the only place that had a husky department. And I remember my mother dragging me into J.C. Penney's and, "Where's the husky department?" She would scream out, and be so embarrassed. But those were those days. And because of that, I think, and also because I guess maybe I wasn't as astute socially when I started going to regular school in the second grade. I got bullied a lot by the girls. They would call me cooties and run away whenever I came near, and the like. And so that was something. And I grew up and found finally there was a use for my body in football, and I played football and got a scholarship, but broke my ankle and lost my childhood sweetheart. All in the same month.
Oh, that's a bad month.
After that, I smoked a lot of pot and flunked out of college.
Oh, gosh.
And my only dream was to sell enough hot dogs on the boardwalk in Queens, New York, to not have to work in the winter. But I had a friend, and he kept pushing me, and finally he pushed me into a law school. And one law school took a chance on me.
Aw.
And I became a lawyer. So then I got a job in Miami, we're talking 1970s, 1974, 1977, cocaine cowboy days, the days of Scarface and the Mariel boat lift and the Paradise Lost. And I was a prosecutor, so I was right in the middle of it. And then I went out in private practice, and I was basically hired by the mob and the cartels, that's a whole nother
Wow.
podcast right there. But in all of that, I'll just say that it was the cocaine cowboy days, and my behaviors hanging out with those guys became a little bit excessive, and my personal life was going down the tubes, and the old traumas were kind of surfacing, and they were hard to handle, and they left me with a lot of self-criticism, unworthiness, and the like. And so I was seeing a therapist, and another one of those crazy events in life, found out that my therapist was a devotee, one of the top students, and the English language editor for Taoist Grandmaster Watching Ni, who from the Shaolin Temple, who was the heir to 72 generations of wisdom
Oh my
passed down in his
goodness.
family. 72 generations,
God.
1,400 years. And I
Oh my
met Master
gosh.
Ni, and I studied under Master Ni for 6 years, and that was absolutely transformational. Changed my life, and it opened my heart, and it set me on a new path. And so as things happen in this very strange way of my life, just as Master Ni's teachings were really taking hold in me, my mob boss, not mob boss, my mob client, we had a good arrangements, nothing illegal, nothing unethical, because he needed a respected lawyer that was trusted by the courts. That was in his best interest. But then his son got arrested, and he asked me to do things I refused to do. And so we all kind of decided that it would be best if I left Miami. And
Okay.
we shook hands. We shook hands on it, and never heard from them again. And moved to North Carolina, and it was quite a cultural change. But what was wonderful about it was that I had a blank canvas. I had the opportunity to totally redesign my life,
Yeah.
and
A fresh start.
a fresh start, and it was beautiful.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, it could have gone so many different ways. That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
So many.
So many different ways. So what got you into the whole, okay, so we're already into, you got into, what did you say again? What is it? How do you,
Taoism,
doubt,
T
doubt,
A O I Taoism. It's
okay, Taoism.
sometimes pronounced with a D. Taoism. It is a sister of Buddhism.
Okay,
It's a Confucianism, Buddhism, and Taoism are the three legs of Chinese thinking.
got it.
So
Okay.
it differs a little bit because Taoism is not um, um, teaching based; it's energy and experientially based. You
Oh,
know, just to give you a moment, the symbol, the Tai Chi, right?
right.
Well, this is yin and this is yang, but inside of yin is the dot here that looks like yang. But that's actually a seed, and that seed's going to grow up and it's going to take over, and this seed's going to take over. And so the symbol means that life is cyclical, and day turns to night and night turns to day. But what we don't realize as human beings is that good times turn to bad times, and there are times to advance and there are times to retreat. And so we have to be sensitive to these times and these energies that are in the times. And if we can correctly identify the nature and the characteristic of the time that we're in, and then learn how to align ourselves correctly, effectively, and efficiently with that time, life becomes much easier.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Interesting. Yeah, I've never had it explained to me that way. That's awesome. I'm learning so much today. This is the second podcast that I'm learning so much. I love it. I love it when I walk away from podcasts and I, have all these golden nuggets, which is almost every time. Okay, so I have questions. Excuse me.
Sure.
But okay, well, let me ask you this though. How did you become a professor of wellness?
So I practiced criminal law. Even when I got to North Carolina, I went back and started over as a DA, and then I had my own practice up until 2015. But before that, when I got to North Carolina, I found some Buddhist teachings, and that's when I started learning meditation. And then I was trained as a teacher in the insight meditation tradition in about 2006, and that was a 2-year process.
Oh,
So I
wow.
was on the side. I was teaching meditation, but I was continuing my practice. I retired in 2015. I'm 75 years old,
Oh,
and
I'm surprised.
um, thank you. I appreciate
Seriously.
it. And Elon University, called me up right away. They said, "We want you to come teach law here." And I said, "Fine," but I wanted to teach meditation. And it's been about 3 or 4 years of pushing, and they finally gave me a credit course. So I teach
Oh,
online, in my private practice of teaching meditation, but I also teach at the university. And a person who teaches health and wellness subjects is considered to be, considering that I have the credentials, I'm a professor of wellness.
got it. Okay, Mr. Professor of Wellness. I like that. Hey, thank you for listening so far. If you're enjoying this podcast, be sure to subscribe so you won't ever miss an episode. Okay. So, did you want to explain before we go into the questions what we were talking about before we got onto the podcast when you were talking about meditation? And it was really actually quite fascinating.
I will, but there's something. I'd like to talk about meditation itself for just a moment,
Yes, that's
because there
yes,
there are
yes,
so many misconceptions.
exactly.
A lot, a lot of people say it's hard for me to meditate because I can't sit still and my
Mm-hmm.
mind is so busy and I can't quiet my mind. And there's this idea that meditation is supposed to be about quieting your mind or having some kind of white noise in there and emptiness. And I will tell you that I've been meditating for 20 years and my mind still goes nuts. So that's
That's its
that is
job.
that is not it's not about quieting the mind. It's about becoming aware of your present experience, including your thoughts. It's about not quieting them, it's about skillfully learning to manage them.
Right,
that
right.
that's that and so we what and it's also about um, trying and failing and beginning again and failing and beginning again and failing, because the process of that exact process that people complain about, that my mind goes nuts,
Mm-hmm.
well, we let it go nuts, but then we notice that it is going nuts and we watch it as it goes nuts.
Right.
And doing that actually builds up our window of tolerance. We start to become more tolerant of our own thoughts, and certainly they can be evocative and they can trigger things. But
Mm-hmm.
we learn how to use techniques like opening our eyes or shifting our position. It's not about sitting rigidly and keeping your eyes closed. That we can kind of like manage the thoughts so that they stay inside of our window of tolerance, and we allow for a little bit of discomfort so that we get stronger. Just
Right.
like, it's not comfortable to go to the gym, but if you want to grow your muscles, you got to lift the weights.
That's right. That's a very good point. Yeah, and I had someone explain it to me like when I'm meditating, because it's true, we want to fight the thoughts, right? We can't shut our thoughts off. We can't shut our
You
mind
can't.
off. You can't.
No.
It's just not, that's its job. But instead of fighting the thoughts, just watch them as they go by and observe them.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Start there, just observe them. Because, I think for me, I would always, oh, no, I can't be thinking. I'm trying to have like you say, just like no thoughts, a blank. And it doesn't work. And I would get
It
frustrated.
doesn't work.
It
You
doesn't
can't do
work.
it.
It doesn't work. And sometimes I try to meditate and I just can't. It's rare. It's really rare. And I just feel like I can't. But for the most part, I mean, it has really been a lifesaver for me. It helps me with my emotional regulation, if nothing else. It gives me such a peace when I'm done, and I'm able to manage things a lot easier than before, because my thoughts do, and I've learned to kind of slow my thoughts down, and I have learned how to kind of
Yeah,
shut
they
them
will
off.
do that over time. That is a side benefit of the practice. That you do start to develop the ability to maintain your attention for longer periods of time. Your thoughts do slow down, but that's not the reason that you do it. That's it's like icing on the cake.
Right.
Um,
A benefit
you
or
know what so many people don't realize is that they're meditating all the time. They just don't know they're meditating.
what do you mean by that?
Um, Okay. So you've been in a conversation, let's say you've been telling a joke, right? And as you're telling the joke, there's another voice in your head that's commenting on how it's going and whether you think that they're going to get it and saying, "Oh, I didn't see the reaction. I don't think they're listening to me. Oh, they are listening to me. They're really into this. Oh, they're going to think this is so funny." So there's this other little voice that's commenting on even while you're speaking.
True.
You're
Yes, I know
speaking,
exactly what you're
but
saying.
you're
Yeah.
completely aware of this other.
Yeah.
That's meditation. That's meditation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The only thing difference between it just happening on its own is that we don't notice it happening. It's just automatic. In meditation, we actually start listening to that other voice intentionally.
It's on
And
purpose.
and as we do that, we start to get reconnected with that other voice because what that other voice is, it's the other half of your brain. See, you're talking and you're connecting and you're conversing with your right hemisphere. That's your verbal. Your intuitive side is over on the left. And it's your
Oh,
intuitive side that acts as a governor on your logical side. So when we meditate, we become more familiar with that other half of the brain, and it's kind of like doubling your brain power.
that explains why there's so much thoughts shooting around too, right? That makes sense. Interesting.
Well,
Okay.
no, the thoughts shooting around is actually a survival mechanism.
Explain that.
See, when you were in the forest for 1,700,000 years, as we evolved from Cro-Magnon to Homo sapiens, we evolved in a very difficult physical environment where we worked very hard physically and we ate things like onions and berries. And we moved around a lot, and that's what we did. But we were always scanning for danger because there were poison
Sure.
insects, there were snakes, there were tigers. So we developed the ability to kind of like wander and scan, and we were always scanning for danger, and that was a survival mechanism that we developed. The problem is that when it was a snake, we could identify the problem and we knew what to do. We got out of there, or we got a stick and we fought with it, or we did something to solve the problem.
Right.
So the way our brain is constructed, it is going to be looking for danger and it's going to want to fix it, want to solve it
No
because
matter
it's
what.
survival. Now, the problem is that the dangers that we have today are no longer a snake or a tiger.
Yeah.
They're deadlines. They're getting the kids to school on time. They're having a tiff with your boss. They're all of the paying the
Traffic.
bills on time, not getting the job, having to go for an interview. All of these things. They each one of them, and the word stress is sugarcoating. It's not really stress, it's danger. If you want to say what stress is the perception of danger.
That's true.
And today our dangers are so small and blended together that they are chronic all the time, it's all around us, undifferentiated because they fade into just a fog of danger. So imagine this prehistoric brain that's looking for a snake so that it can solve the
Yeah.
problem and is now put in an environment where it can't identify the danger, but it feels the danger. So it's scanning back and forth, looking. I got to fix it. So, of course, our mind is going to wander and go crazy. It's just a survival thing. Everybody does it, and it's totally natural and normal.
Right. Right. That's the thing.
There's nothing
Everybody
wrong with it.
does it. Yeah. It's normal.
Everybody does it. Normal.
Yeah. It was funny because, excuse me. A few, it was just maybe 5 years ago that I realized I was an overthinker. Like, I thought everybody did that. I thought that's how everybody thought, right? And I started reading about it. I'm like, oh,
Oh,
okay, that's not normal. Well, not that it's not normal, but it's common, but it's not healthy to be an
hmm,
overthinker. Yeah, I would
yeah, yeah.
ruminate on stuff for weeks, weeks and weeks and
Hmm,
weeks.
hmm,
Well, that's fascinating. Okay, that gives us a really good idea, and I like how you explain that because it's so funny. As soon as I tell people, to meditate, or I suggest that they meditate, there's I just can't, and there's just that complete pushback. But the way you explained it, you know, it makes it so much more simple, and there's just so much benefit to it, and it takes practice. And like you said, you've been doing it
hmm.
for how
Oh yeah,
long, and your mind
yeah.
still wanders.
Yeah, yeah. You can't. It's funny. My wife always tells me that all my physical stuff that I buy, the bands and the cords and the
Yeah,
weights and everything else, she keeps saying to me, Bob, it doesn't work by osmosis. You can't just buy it. You got to use
that's so true.
it. So meditation is kind of like that. It's like going to the gym and they show you the machines, but you got to get on them and use them.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of practice. And you start out, with 1 pound weight, and and it's a little bit uncomfortable and it feels a little bit new, but that 1 pound weights generally do. The problem is that a lot of people think they got to jump in and pick up the 50-pound barbell,
Yeah, right,
and
exactly.
that's gonna rip your muscles.
It's gonna, yeah, and then you're not gonna work out. No, and like when I started
Right.
meditating, I would start with like a minute. I would meditate for a minute
Hmm.
and see how I do, and then work up from there. Yeah.
Hmm.
How long do you meditate when you do? I'm
Me,
curious. Yeah.
I do 30 minutes in the morning.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, see, more than 30 minutes is even the research and the statistic, the analytics. They say that over 30 minutes can actually be harmful
Oh,
because it becomes too evocative. Yeah, meditation can do damage.
well, anything out of
Um,
balance, right? Anything out of
Anything out of
balance.
balance,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
too much, especially when
Interesting.
you have trauma in there, because the thoughts can be very evocative and
Yeah.
they can be very triggering,
Yeah.
and especially when we're talking about things like body scans and breathing,
Yeah.
even the breath. To ask somebody to take a deep breath can be evocative.
Yeah.
Um, and the problem with most meditate not most meditate any meditation that is old school, let's put it that way, is you sit, you stay motionless, you close your eyes, you know and when you're dealing with folks, and the numbers are staggering about how many of us have experienced trauma.
Oh, I
um,
know. It's rare I run into someone who hasn't. Really rare.
Rarely, rarely. I mean, if I have a class of 17 students, I can bank there's going to be 3 or 4 students in there that have experienced some form of trauma.
Yep.
And so, I think that a meditation teacher today has a responsibility to do no harm, and we have to trust that the person that you're teaching, the person that's learning, knows their body and knows their limits way more than I do.
Right.
Uh, and so there has to be a permission. If you feel like something's getting overwhelming, and you want to open your eyes, that's fine. If you want to shift your position or your posture, because those things, can just be calming and centering and grounding.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's sometimes that's all that's needed. I mean, we don't want it to be too comfortable. You don't want it to be too enjoyable, because one of the purposes that you're doing meditation is to make your window of tolerance bigger, you know?
Right.
Because if something is distressing to me, I can either reduce the distressing stimulus if possible, or I can increase my tolerance to discomfort, right?
Increasing the
If
tolerance to discomfort's much better.
much better because you really can't suppress,
No.
it's, so I mean, a very common example of that would be going to funerals. Most people don't like to go to funerals because it's just plain old uncomfortable,
Yeah.
and you think you have to say something and fix somebody and say the
Yeah.
right thing, and so if folks don't have much of a tolerance for that discomfort, they're not going to go to funerals.
Yeah.
And that means they lose the opportunities to be a good friend to their friends, the people
Hmm.
that they care for. And that narrows us, that makes us smaller.
True.
And being of service and being there and being compassionate, to your loved ones and your friends is what gives you more strength, to deal with your own discomforts and the like. So if you can increase your window of tolerance and wind up saying, well, this is uncomfortable, but I can take it. And then I can go to funerals, and then you find that just by going, you become, your window of tolerance gets even bigger. So within our internal world, we try to do that as well. There's a little bit of discomfort. Okay. Overwhelm, not okay.
Yeah, yeah. That's a beautiful way to share about meditation, and one of the greatest benefits that is building our tolerance. It's so true.
Hmm.
That's so important.
Hmm.
Yeah, because building my tolerance to deal with stuff, and that, as opposed to trying to control a situation, which we know we can't, right? The
Right.
more we try to
Right.
control a situation, the worse it's going to be. So, yeah, building our tolerance up is so much better. I love that. Hey, if you're ready to go deeper in your healing journey, join our 6-week workshop. Sign up today at women's childhood abuse healing workshop.com or click on the link below. I'd love to see you there and help you on your healing journey. Well, okay, so I've got some questions, and I think these are really good.
Sure. Sure. Sure.
Okay, so the first one is, how do meditation and mindfulness uniquely support trauma survivors in their healing journey? So we were kind of touching on that already a little bit, but maybe you can expand on that.
Well, our our meditation, is, again, it's about learning to manage skillfully your thinking, and it is the thinking that is distressing to us.
Yeah.
So if we can learn ways to skillfully manage it, we may not be able to make it go away, but if we can skillfully manage it, then I mean, that says a lot right there.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is about being awake and aware to your current present experience. Let me give you an example. I had a student recently who was in my class, and the way that I teach meditation is there's an app and my dashboard and the class time. So we meet once a week for an hour, 2 hours, and I give them some instructions, and we talk about what's going on in their lives, and do the class thing. Then they get their app on their phone, and they go home, and the guided meditations are on their app, and then they log their reflection, and every day that log comes to my dashboard, and I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning every morning, and I read my 17 students' logs, and I respond to it right then and there. I give them coaching back. So maybe it's just an affirmation that they're doing a good job. Maybe it's a reminder that what they think sucked really was good. Maybe it's just sweet, man. The practice is teaching you, and maybe sometimes it's paragraphs long. Maybe let's maybe asking people maybe to hold their thinkings with some warmth and gentleness and kindness. They're being very critical with themselves. You know, and one of the ways that we might talk about that is, can we learn to breathe softly? As we're doing, paying attention to our breath, can we bring to mind the idea of breathing softly and gently? And you notice that the moment you say that in a group, there's just shoulders drop,
Yeah.
jaws loosen.
I felt
Right?
myself like,
Yeah. And when we can learn the physical sensation of breathing softly, we can start to hold our thoughts softly because we now have experience being soft and gentle. first we do it somatically with body sensations,
Yes.
and then we move that into feelings and thoughts and judgments. So anyway, this girl, I noticed there weren't any logs coming in. So I asked her to, if she had a few minutes after class and chat, and I said, I noticed that there's no logs coming in. And she said, yeah, it always seems like I know what I need to do and what's best for me, and I don't do it. And I said, oh, that's interesting. I'm curious about that. What do you think? What do you think's going on? What's that all about? Is that show up in other parts of your life? She goes, yeah, all the time. So as we continue just to chat, in a very me taking kind of just a very non-judgmental, curious. Yeah, I'm really interested in like what that's like for you, and all of a sudden she said, well, it's like I sabotaged myself. That was like there was an inflection point, and we went down that road just a little bit, and her eyes welled up, and she burst into tears, and she said, I just don't feel I have a right to be happy.
Oh, bless her heart.
Bless her heart. And so immediately, I mean, if that, certainly there was trauma, that was rearing its head
Yeah.
at that point. So, I asked her, so tell me, what are the thoughts that you're having? And that's a little bit of a dangerous question, but I thought it was okay in this moment. And she described them generally, and I asked her, no, can you tell me what the actual words are that are going through your head? Don't describe the thought. Tell me what the words are. So, she started thinking and she started to say a couple of words. And I said, oh, where are you feeling this in your body? And she got a little, what do you mean? I said, well, like, where in your body are you feeling it? And all over, in my eyes, in my cheek, everywhere else. I said, no, really, where do you feel? Finally, she identified, it was really crazy, I'd never seen this before. She identified a spot about 3 inches under her collarbone in her chest muscle. Not her, she said specifically, it wasn't my heart. And I said, you notice you're not crying. And she goes, oh. And I said, that's because we are in this moment, and you can't feel a body sensation any other time than the present moment, and there's nothing attacking you here right now. So what happened? We brought her into this present moment, and instead of catastrophizing about her life, way her life was going to be in the future, or ruminating about all of the things that went wrong in the past, she was right here and right now in a classroom in a safe place. And in this present moment, she had nothing to fear and wasn't in danger. And when I got her reflection at the end of the course, it was just beautiful. It shifted. Something shifted in her
Oh,
life.
I'm sure. How could it not shift with that?
Yeah. So that's some of the power. Becoming aware of our present condition. People say, be in the present. Well, what does that mean?
Yeah, I was just going to say, explain that,
Yeah, what's that mean? It means being aware of, the sensation of breathing. If you're doing walking meditation, being aware of the sensation of your heel touching the ground.
I
and
do
the
that.
rolling of your foot.
I
Yeah.
do that. I take myself on a walk. I'll be working, and then I'll set my timer for 45 minutes. And when the when the timer goes off, if it's nice outside, I'll go and I'll do I don't know, 10, 15-minute walk. I don't play any music. I don't have any noise. I listen to the birds. I pay attention to how I'm walking. I pay attention to the smells, what I'm seeing, everything. It's really cool. It's really cool.
Because you can't smell in the future or the
No,
past. So
no.
when you're smelling something, you're here.
It's
You're
right now.
Yeah. And so when you start to get more familiar with the sensation of being right here, right now, and you start getting connected again to that other voice that coming from your left hemisphere, if you're being spiritual, you might even call that your soul. You might, psychologists would call it your authentic self. But when you start getting connected with that wisdom, because that other voice is incredibly wise, and it has all the answers to everything that you want to know. And when you start getting connected to it, it's quite amazing. Even the brain scientists, what they say, they can look at the electrical activity in your brain, And they can say that if your right prefrontal cortex over here is all activated, and politics today, bad news today,
Oof.
disasters,
Yeah.
floods, all the stuff we hear about, it's
Yeah.
always activating this side. And when that electrical activity is there, what they found is there is not any way at all that you can intentionally lower the electrical activity on the right side of your brain.
There's no way you can bring.
You can't intentionally lower that activity. But the left side of the brain is like a brake pedal to the right side.
Okay.
So you can build up the electrical activity when it's weak, when you don't have enough electrical activity here, the right side goes nuts and you go down the rabbit hole.
Been there many times.
When you build up the activity on your left side, it acts as a governor, as a brake on the right side, and it balances you out. So how do you do that?
Yeah, activating that.
Yeah, you have to bring beauty into your life.
Mm-hmm.
When I sit here, I mean, I got my little Tai Chi man here, and I have my little yin yang guy, and I got all these pictures up here, and I got, where is it? Oh, here it is. Here's my rock from San Diego. I had a great time in San Diego.
That's where I'm at.
Here,
That's where I'm at.
Oh yeah. Oh, I love Southern California. So, I have these things which all remind me of beautiful and pleasant parts of my life. And so that, I believe that you have a responsibility to bring beauty into your life. You have you have to take the time to go out and sit and watch the sunrise.
Mm-hmm.
You have to go to a museum and look at beautiful works of art. You have to spend time, with a marble statue that enthralls you.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course, there's the whole spiritual end of it and the sense of connection and being connected to others. Mm-hmm. That's all left side stuff. So we can.
You have to build that side up.
You got to build it up. That's the only way to moderate that.
I like that. I know, because that's something. In 2016 is when I decided to start discovering myself because I didn't know who I was. Mm-hmm. And my current husband and I, I just remember that day just crying and not knowing what was going on. And I'm like, he's like, what's going on? I'm like, I don't even know who I am. Like, who am I? He's like, well, let's go find out. And so we've been on a journey. And I've discovered so many things that I didn't know I loved. Things like trees. I love trees. I'm a freak for trees. I will have people. When I drove my family at the time nuts when we were in Hawaii because I got pulled over. That's a really cool tree over there, and so I just discovered so much about myself. And what kind of helped trigger that, and I've shared this before, is that I had a coach say to me one time, Lisa, you think in black and white. You need to start adding some color. And at the moment, I was like, I have no idea what he means by that. There you go. I had no idea what he meant.
Color.
But it was significant. It got my attention, and that was something that I keep that in the back of my mind. And I look for more color in everything, and it's been really eye-opening because I know trauma sometimes can really kind of shut us down and the creative side and all of that goes away. And like, I'm actually creative. I didn't think I was. I'm actually creative. It just blows my mind. But it's just discovering yourself, and you're right. And there's nothing, I really enjoy my walks by myself with no music. No, I'm not listening to a podcast. I'm just enjoying the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We need to do that.
We do.
We need to do that.
We do. Well, that was beautifully said. Okay, so our next question is, you say having happiness can be learned, even for those who've experienced deep trauma. What are some of the most important practices or shifts in thinking that can make this possible?
Gratitude.
Yes. 100%.
Gratitude, full stop.
Yep.
Yeah, I would suggest for any of your audience to go to the Greater Good Science Center website, GGSC, the Greater Good Science Center. and take the Art and Science of Happiness. It's a free online course. It's incredible, incredible, and everybody that deals with happiness and positive psychology and brain science and neuroplasticity and all of those things that have to do with what makes us human and what is the art and science of happiness, all of those scientists and researchers and neurobiologists and biobiologists and all those guys, they all work through the Greater Good Science Center. So all their stuff is there. And they have such terrific, I mean, they've got such terrific things about learning to be happy. And then they also have a side website called GGIA, the Greater Good in Action. And on the Greater Good in Action, I can't remember what the number is, but I know it's over 45. I think it's, 80, something like that. They've got, you could put in gratitude, search gratitude, and it'll give you 12 exercises to increase your gratitude. Put in happiness, put in stress, put in self-compassion. It'll give you, 6 different exercises. You can look at them all and then pick the one or two that works for you. It's all wonderful stuff. But one of the things that I would say, what I do, my practice, or was my practice, I don't quite do it as much anymore, but I still do. I do a morning minute. I always get my dogs when the sun's going to come up, and I go over to the elementary school next door, and I go in their backyard, and I sit there on their little kid-sized benches and watch the sun come up and let my dogs play. And I repeat to myself a mantra, a little paragraph that I constantly am working on and evolving. And it started out with my wife, who always used to say, today is the day the Lord has made. Be happy and rejoice in it. And I used to say that, but over time it's evolved. And I just remind myself that it's a new day. And that I'm trading a day of my life for this day. And the only thing that's going to be memorable about it for me is whatever I leave in it. So it better be something good. So that's a practice that I have that keeps me centered and grounded. But another practice is keeping a gratitude journal. Writing down a couple of things. So what I would suggest to a lot of folks who are really coming out of the shadows is see if you can find just a simple word or something that you can make your morning minute. And if you can't go out and watch the sunrise, then when you'd have your first sip of coffee, have something that reminds you. When you take your first sip of coffee, say this little thing, whatever it is that you decide, and then I'll work with them on developing what really grounds them. Then get your little notebook out and write down 2 or 3 things that you're grateful for. Then go through your day, and then when you get home at night, before you go to bed, open up your notebook again and write 2 or 3 good things that happened.
Yep.
And now if you do those 3 things and you do it on a regular basis, as far as the gratitude journal, they have research on this. And it will tell you that if you keep a gratitude journal for 30 days, it will raise your base level of happiness 14 to 19%.
It is a
and they
game.
have research on this.
It is a game changer because I'll just share a real quick story, and I've shared it on my podcast before, but it talks about this very thing. I was working at this large company, and there was a lot of stuff going on in our office, and it wasn't good, and it was ridiculous. And so I got to the point where I was just hating coming into work every day, right? And it was a long drive for me. It was like over an hour drive for me to get to work. So I spent that particular morning, the hour to work, going over in my head just how awful it was going in there and just, getting myself just in a real funk. So by the time I pulled into the parking garage, I was in an absolute funk. And I all but audibly heard God say to me, I want you to be grateful. I want you to walk up to by the time you get to your desk, from the time you leave the car, basically, to the time you get to the desk, I want you to talk about all the things you're grateful for. Now, I got to work early in the morning, so there's no one around. So I did. I got out of my car and I started naming off, okay, I'm grateful for the job. I'm grateful for my car that got me to work. I'm grateful. I started just naming them off under my breath all the way up. It's probably a good 5-minute walk. I was a completely different person when I walked into that office. That completely changed everything for that day. I can't imagine how awful that day would have been had I not done the gratitude, and if I had gone into work after spending over an hour ruminating in my head how much I hated that job and how much I hated what I was walking into. And it was a great day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, uh, there's a terrific little video on YouTube, um, written by Father David Rast, who, by the way, Brother David Standel, it's a German name, Rast is the last name, gratitude dot org or gratefulness.org, one of the two, I can't remember right now. But it's a wonderful, wonderful website that sends you a beautiful statement on your email every day, word of the day. It has all of these gorgeous greeting cards that you can send to your friends that are just got wonderful sentiments in it. It has essays on gratitude, and it's just about living a life of gratitude. And people say, well, that's kind of like tinkle, tinkle, kumbaya stuff. But what you're saying when you're grateful for something, you're also saying, the weight of the world is not on my shoulders. You're saying that, you know, that there are other people around that do some of this, and it's not all me.
Yeah.
Because that's another feeling that, trauma survivors often feel is it's everything's on me.
Yeah.
I have to do everything. I have to please everybody. I have to. And I was in class last semester, and I said something in the class which I didn't even pay any attention to. And you never know what's going to affect somebody. And in their final, reflections, I think out of the 17 students, 15 of them reported that one little thing I said. And somebody asked me about this, and they were saying, I have to go do this, and I have all these tests, and I have to, write this big paper. And I just, kind of said, well, maybe instead of saying you have to write a paper, say you get to write a paper.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
somehow that mapped onto all of those folks. They thought it was the best thing they ever heard.
That is such a mind shift when you realize that instead of I have to go, like I have to go to the gym. No, I get to go to the gym. I get to go
Yeah,
to the gym.
go to
I'm
the gym.
lucky. I get to go to the gym. There's people who can't go to the gym, right?
Right, right, right,
I love it.
right, right.
This is so good. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your comments, your questions about this episode, or really anything that has to do with trauma. So you can comment below, or you can reach out to me at asklisatickle@gmail.com. I'm really looking forward to hearing from you. Okay, so what does it mean to skillfully manage our thinking, and why is that especially important for survivors of childhood abuse or trauma?
Okay, so when something evocative happens, when a trigger occurs, there's no management. Okay, it moves, up a scale, and it, very quickly moves, from blue to orange to red,
In a flash.
and then you're in red in a flash. Okay, so managing it is first, being aware, and so that other voice that we were talking about before, I kind of like the metaphor of, we're all aware of the fact that we have like a stream of consciousness that flows through our mind, you know, and on that stream of consciousness, there are all of our different thoughts and feelings and stuff. So it's kind of like a river that's flowing, and there's all these logs and leaves on the river. And our life is kind of like we are like floating on a log, sometimes barely hanging on,
Yeah.
and we're hanging on to the log and going down the river. And when the river's nice and calm, that's all cool. That's great. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. But then there's white water, and there are waterfalls, and there are tributaries, and there are forks, and there's all kinds of things that the river goes through. And when you ride on that log, you're on a roller coaster. That's right side stuff, okay? When that other voice is going off, that's the person that has gotten off the log and is sitting up on the bank watching you on the log, okay? So it's not like you give up the experience of life, but you kind of move your location off of the log up on the bank, even though you're still on the log. And so you become an observer of your thinking. Even though your thinking is still on a roller coaster, there's a part of you that's the observer.
Right.
And from that observer place, from there is stability. And people talk about the peacefulness of meditation. The peacefulness of meditation is not that your thoughts are peaceful. It's that the part of you that's watching your thoughts
Yes.
has some stability.
Right.
So as we become more connected to that other part of our thinking, we, again, start developing that tolerance for discomfort and that tolerance, well, we don't, it's a much more objective place. And from there, we can assess, our current experience more. And as we don't run for it and let the default functioning kind of take over
Yeah.
and take us down the same old pathway that we've gone before, at least now we're aware of it. When my wife and I first connected, I was her third and she was my second, right? So we decided we were going to go to a therapist before we even got married. We didn't need to. I mean, we were lovey-dovey and everything, We didn't need to. But we decided this is going to be the last time for either of us.
Yeah.
We're not going through all that again. And so we decided we'd go to a therapist. It was an imago therapist. And the imago concept of therapy is just terrific. But anyway, one of the things that he advised us and coached us in is that when somebody is doing something that's annoying to you, you can turn around and say to them, hey, I just want to let you know that when you do that, this is how I feel. And now that I've told you that I feel like this, when you do that, if you do it again, at least you will know that I am feeling that way. And so bringing it into awareness, letting you know, because she would do things and not even know that it affected me. Now that she knows that it's affected, maybe she'll do it again. Maybe she'll do it another time. But slowly that awareness of the effect that it's having is going to be working on her on some level. And eventually she might think, I really don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And so being aware of your thinking and where it leads to, and not so much where it came from, but what it leads to, and having that awareness allows you to make the small little changes that you may make, that you're capable of making, that are inside of your window of tolerance, which builds your window of tolerance, and that's management. That's management, management, in marketing is how many ads are we going to do and how are we going to say this and all of that. That's management. And so that's what I mean by skillfully managing your thoughts. It's being aware and looking at them from a different perspective that's safe.
Right. I mean, it's like I say. I mean, we all have these tools, and we need to manage our. When we learn these tools, we're able to manage our trauma rather than it managing us.
Right.
It's empowering, and it's the same thing here. I love that. That's so cool. Okay, very well explained. I totally followed along exactly. I was like a little ahead of you on some of it because I knew where you were going. It was interesting. Okay, so you've written extensively on happiness. What are some common misconceptions about happiness, especially for those coming out of a survival mindset? That's a good question.
Um, I remember a story about Queen Elizabeth, and I don't. She was at a banquet or something, and somebody asked her if her husband made her happy.
Mm,
Okay,
I'm curious what she said.
and she said no,
Hmm.
and there she was overheard, and there was a quieting. Everybody became very quiet,
I bet.
and she goes, "No, he doesn't make me happy. Nobody makes me happy. I make me happy."
Exactly.
And so I think one of the great misconceptions are that our happiness comes from external stimuli,
Mm-hmm.
and it just doesn't. You may be joyful about the smell of your new car, but a month from now it's going to be gone.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be a new car
So
anymore.
he's still going to be happy?
Um, yeah. So you know, it all of the things that affect us, they are they fade. They're not permanent. They're transitory, and you can't depend on what other people think of you. And it has to be generated from inside. So the idea that somebody makes me happy, I'm happy when I'm with you. Even the language, if I say I'm happy when I'm with you,
Mm-hmm.
is a different thing than you make me happy.
Yeah, it's a
So
lot of
that's
responsibility, you know. And I realize that
yeah,
in some of my relationships that I put on other people, that I put the responsibility on them to make me happy.
yeah, right, yeah. So and that happiness happens naturally. I think that there's a certain work ethic of happiness, just like I feel you have a responsibility to bring beauty into your life. That's what I mean by the work ethic of happiness. You have the responsibility of stimulating, your happiness muscles,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and taking out the time to relax. Um, you know, in the evolutionary days, we would work our butts off during the day collecting onions and berries, maybe killing a boar and we'll have a feast. But we work our butts off, and but then at night, we put the fire on and cook the lamb's leg or whatever, and everybody would sit around and look up at the stars and make up stories.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so there's that part of our thinking and our brain that just
Yeah.
needs time to be free.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to intentionally work at that because it's not given to us.
Yeah. Yeah. It is a practice for sure.
You have to make yourself important enough to give yourself the time. Schedule it on your calendar if you have to. Um, call it busy time. This is my time,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why I get up at 4 o'clock in the
Mm-hmm.
morning.
Me too.
I get up at 4 because I own the morning. That's mine.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to take that away
Me
from me.
too.
Now, once the day start, I'm at the beck and call of the world.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I am such an early bird and I just love it. It's like the new day. It's, bringing in the new day. I just love it. I know people think I'm
Hmm.
crazy, but I'm an early bird too. I love getting up early and I like watching the sunset too, but I'm asleep
Hmm.
by 9.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Okay. So for someone just beginning their healing journey and feeling overwhelmed, which does happen, what's one simple mindfulness or meditation practice they can start today?
Well, I mean, all the things that we talked about, are mindful practices. Taking a walk in the forest, just sitting and listening for a moment. I mean,
Starting with
what you generally,
gratitude, like you were saying earlier,
yeah,
right?
doing the gratitude journal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, cultivate awe. Uh, go to some place. That it's interesting. Awe is the subject of an incredible amount of research right now because people are feeling that the research scientists are saying that awe, what is the positive mirror of PTSD.
It's the
Yeah,
positive mirror of PTSD.
mirror of PTSD. That's what they're finding now that that experiencing awe immediately restructures parts of your brain. Just like PTSD, it immediately
Yeah.
restructures your brain. It changes the physical structure of your brain immediately. But so does awe.
Oh,
Now, not
wow.
as quite as powerfully as PTSD, and you have to cultivate it a little bit more because your survival instincts
Yeah.
are so much more powerful
Mm-hmm.
than your desire to be in beauty. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to work at it a little bit more. But the more you can experience it and go to a place where you do that, I mean, I used to. My wife says now that I'm a sap because I cry at the drop of a hat.
Oh, I love it.
Uh, I see an ASPCA ad, I'm
Oh
like,
yeah, no,
oh.
yeah, no. I don't watch those. No, I don't watch those.
But compassion. Um, compassion. The word is interesting. It doesn't mean sympathy, and it doesn't mean empathy. The word "calm" means with, and passion means suffering, like the Passion of Christ. So compassion just simply means the ability to be with suffering,
Oh, you like to have the capacity to be able to do that.
to be with suffering.
But to
Yeah,
be with suffering.
like
Okay.
you have a friend who's just experienced some tragedy,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you can go and sit down beside him, and it's uncomfortable,
Yeah.
but you have compassion. Because of your compassion, you can sit next to them, pat their knee, and say, I don't know what to say, but I'm just here.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Mm-hmm.
And that act of being with it is so powerful. And unfortunately, we can be so compassionate for others and be so little compassion for ourselves.
So true.
So I would say, especially for trauma, survivors, where I would go first is I would go to Kristen Neff's website, KristinNeff. And she is the grand guru of self compassion.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she's got something called a self compassion break.
Mm.
And I would take that practice, which basically the practice has four parts. One is when you are suffering, when you are discomfortable, when the thoughts start to come up. First, you acknowledge them and say, this is suffering. This is suffering. This is what this is.
Acknowledge it.
I am suffering. I'm suffering, and then you not you popularize it by saying, other people suffer too. I'm not alone in this.
Mm.
I'm not the only one that has suffered trauma. I am not alone in this. And so you create that connection. And then you say, and then you just simply, pray, not pray, but affirm, may I be kind to myself. And then follow it with maybe putting your hands over
Mm-hmm.
your heart or stroking your hand, because we're mammals. And that connection, even if we're connecting ourselves,
Right.
you know, is powerful, and she's amazing.
Hmm. I have to
And
check her out.
I think that a self compassion practice would be a great place to start.
It's so something we put last, and we don't even think about it.
Yeah,
I mean, I just remember when I was in survival mode, and had a victim mindset. It was just get through the next moment, get through the next moment. Like, go take care of myself. Are you kidding? And then I got to the point where I acknowledged that I needed to start doing that. And then there was the guilt, right? So then I went to the transition of, okay, like if I felt tired and I wanted to go take a nap, even though I had the time for it, I would still feel guilty. Oh, you're being lazy. You're being. And then now I'm like, no, I'm tired. I'm going to go lay down, and I've arranged it in my schedule, and that's the way it is. And it's
yeah,
been a life changer. And it's a process too, because like it was just a year ago, you talk about that voice in your head. I was walking out of the bathroom and I don't even remember what I was thinking about, but this vicious voice came out of nowhere in my head and was just I literally, as soon as I heard it, I stopped. I physically stopped in my tracks and went, "What?" And it was this awful voice just beating me up, and I'm like, "Oh no." And I used to just let that stuff roll all the time. But that was the first time like it was screaming at me. It was, and I stopped. And I'm like, "Oh no, we aren't having this. Absolutely not. Nope,
Nope.
not thinking like that." It was so bizarre, but it was just one of those moments where what hit me at that time is I realized that probably years ago was in my head all the time, and I just fell into that belief. I fell into that belief of that person screaming in my head and telling me what an awful person I was. I believed it. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it is. No, it it reminds me of my mother. We were in Germany. The only time I've been to Europe, I was 14 years old, and she took me to visit some of her birthplaces. And we were in Germany, and we were in Frankfurt, and there was this clerk who was just terribly rude to her, just so rude to her. I don't remember that, but I do remember she was very dramatic. She was 4'11", 4'7", and she was just a very dramatic woman. Anyway, I remember she goes, "Ich bin raus die Deutschland." I am going out of Deutschland, out of Germany. I'm leaving Germany. So it reminds me, but you said, "No, I am leaving that thought."
Yes, I like that. Yes, I am not having that. Exactly.
I am not having it.
No, no.
Raus. Raus.
Oh, I love it. Yep, that was me for sure. Bob, this has been great. I've got one more question,
Sure.
and then I'll have you share with the listeners how they could reach out to you if they wanted to contact you, which will be in the show notes.
Okay.
But what would you like to leave our listeners with?
So, all of our trouble and all of our joy begins with our thoughts. But you are not your thoughts.
Yes.
You are the creator of your thoughts. And as long as you're stuck in your thoughts, you have no say in the matter. You have no say in the matter of your life. But when you can step out of your thoughts, get up on the bank and watch your thoughts, then the possibilities and the potential of who you could be is amazing.
Mm-hmm. So true. That's beautifully said and so true.
And get a dog.
And get a dog. I have two. I got two. We got Border Collie brothers, and they're just the funnest things in the world. Oh, they're just the best. Well, thank you. Okay, and that's the other thing. Share with our listeners how they could contact you, and it'll be in the show notes as well.
Okay, so I've consolidated everything. Well, first of all, I'm going to be opening a podcast myself.
Oh, yay!
It's going to be called A Wise and Happy Life Podcast.
Ooh, I like that.
My website is awiseandhappylife.com. My Facebook page is A Wise and Happy Life. And you can send me an email if you care to at bob@awiseandhappylife.com. But on my website, there are a number of free downloadable ebooks. There's a bunch of videos that are downloadable. I'm putting together some meditation instructions in little 5-minute clips, and all of that's going to be available for free.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much. And again, we'll have all that in the show notes so people can just click on stuff. So thank you so much, Bob. This has been hugely insightful. I mean, I knew a lot about meditation, but you certainly opened up my mind a lot more.
Oh, I'm so happy, and I hope that some of your audience can be well, be happy, be blessed.
Yeah, and take this advice. Definitely take this advice and run with it, because it can be a game changer in your life for sure. Well, thank you.